Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me. This YouTube channel of mine tries as best it can to stand up for truth, freedom, sovereignty, and common sense, really, as well as critical thinking. And it's very nice when I've had wonderful interviewees to talk to and learn about what's going on in the world. Sometimes I get sent information which I think is just a sensible thing to pass on to start a debate and a conversation. Recently, I had some stuff sent in about council tax and whether it was enforceable. Now, I am no expert. I don't pretend to be an expert. I have opinions, of course. We all have opinions, and it is great to be able to share those opinions, even though we may disagree with each other. Disagreeing is a good thing because we can talk around the subject as grown-ups. We don't have to hurl abuse just because somebody has a different opinion with each other. Following one narrative, of course, is disastrous because one size really does not fit all. Today I was sent a letter, which is a letter to the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, and I guess it's a kind of an open letter, really. It has been sent to him. And I thought it would be great to read it out. Now, I don't know whether the author of this letter wanted me to share his name. Clearly, he sent it off under his own back. So I just for the sake of this, I won't. But I do know who it is, and I believe that he has been on the channel before. But have a look at this and see if any of these points in this open letter resonates with you. I would be interested in your comments regarding this and whether you disagree with this letter or not. Be interested in your thoughts. So let's go through it point by point. I'll just read it and you can surmise in your own mind whether you agree or not. So here it is. Dear Rishi Sunak, it is less than 8 years since a majority in the UK voted to restore our sovereignty, but we have still not taken back control. Indeed, we now face further enslavement by would-be puppet masters, such as the WHO and the UN, seemingly driven by potential conflicts of interest. The WHO is largely funded by corporates, wants to impose its will on us by bypassing Parliament via a new treaty, and you seem happy with that. You can argue that Parliament is not obliged to follow the WHO diktats, but we know from experience that many will later argue that that would be breaking international law. Of course, permitting subservience to foreign entities is against your primary duty to the people. It has already led to draconian 15-minute cities and net zero at enormous costs to the people without consultation. But yet you seem to pay lip service to foreign diktats. You have reverted to a command economy using taxation without representation to pursue unattainable and unaffordable targets. That did not work for the people when Stalin tried to stymie the free market, and it will not work now. Your rate of progress in delivering on the pledges that you made as PM has been abysmal, but you seem unable to grasp why your election results have been so poor, and so here are some clues. First, belated support for motorists might just deter many from voting Labour, Lib Dems and Green Party, but you still require unrealistically that 80% of all new vehicles sold must be EVs by 2030, and with 15 million already in fuel poverty, you have a massive hill to climb. 2. Your pushing the team for Cameron didn't go unnoticed, and we are watching your big donors, including so-called oligarchs and corporates with invested interests. 3. Expansionist policies of EU and NATO are more likely to cause unrest and war than to preserve the peace. But you keep denuding us of munitions for no tangible gain. How will you justify the fruitless expenditure of blood and iron? 4. At around £120 per household per annum, the Green Levy would take 833 years to raise £3 billion to decarbonise the grid. You have no idea how that will be funded or where the materials and skilled labour will come from. 5. Lithium mines currently produce around 130,000 tonnes per annum, and with 40 kilograms per EV battery, it will take about 400 years to make batteries for the 1,500 million cars globally. Yes, there's plenty of accessible sodium in the seas, but there's no chance that production of Na batteries will come to the rescue by 2030. Meanwhile, 6. China emits as much CO2 in 11 days as the UK does in a year, and its emissions keep rising. At an emission rate of 0.00048 parts per million per annum, the UK would take 3,000 years to increase the current level by 1.6 parts per million. But as Professor William Happer demonstrated, the GHG impact of each part per million declines exponentially. The UK's influence on global temperature is clearly insignificant and immaterial. 7. The permanent closure of coal-fired power stations left us over-dependent on foreign fuel supplies and escalating gas prices, thereby exacerbating fuel poverty for an infinitesimal gain. 8. On some days, solar and wind power output is less than 2% of grid maximum demand, yet you persist with a proposal to double or treble wind farm capacity, using billions in taxpayers' subsidies with negligible benefit. SMRs would be cheaper, but you have failed to order any. 9. Taxes are at the highest level for many years, and fiscal drag pulls increasing numbers into higher tax rates. You increase corporation tax to 25%, which will not encourage inward investment. That doesn't endear you to those who want low taxation and small government. It neglects the Laffer effect and plays into the hands of socialists. 10. Now, 1 worker in 3 is on the government payroll. Growth is negligible, and you have done little to arrest the rising public sector burden, or our historically high level of debt. 11. You have abdicated to civil servants with little or no scrutiny of new policies in Parliament, while the cost of quangos has risen above £200 billion per annum. Indeed, MPs who ask difficult questions are cancelled or accused of bullying. 12. Despite promises, we continue to carry the millstone of many legacy EU regulations, while UK Supreme Court judges are overwritten by ECHR rulings and the ECJ. The ECHR is now being weaponised to prosecute our ex-servicemen who have long been retired. 13. The flow of illegal migrants into our country continues largely unabated, with HR lawyers thwarting their deportation, using rulings by the unaccountable ECHR. But you still won't withdraw from it, and you have not taken back control. 14. Many hated politicians who make excuses for the perpetrators of crime because of many hate politicians who make excuses for the perpetrators of crime because of ethnicity. They are incensed by genuflection by public servants to undemocratic pressure groups, while democracy, law and order fall further into decline. 15. Most do not want woke and cancel culture, and they do not want to be talked down to and labelled racists. They hate that our culture and history is being rubbished and attacked, with freedom of speech threatened by those who fear exposure, and that some might be offended. 16. They have heard more than enough that you follow the science using worst-case predictions to keep them cowed while watching the same strategy used to scare the pants off us with net zero. And 17. Many believe that the lockdown and the medical interventions may have caused a lot more loss of life years than the problem it was. I'm just rephrasing this to save my YouTube channel. The problem that flew about in 2020. But you failed to learn the lessons. Soon we will see the rise in excess deaths exacerbated by net zero. So your party is on the road to oblivion. And if you want to reverse that, then you must stand up and lead very soon. When will you begin standing up for the people and defending their sovereignty, Mr. Sunak? If you can't stand tall, then, citing Cromwell, in the name of God, go and make way for someone who can. Hopefully you will respond positively to those challenges, and in that spirit, I wish you the best for 2024. Regards from the sender of that letter. Very hard-hitting, I think you will agree, but perhaps you will agree with the author of that letter that the government has basically let us down in many, many ways. I do tend to agree with all those points, and I think many do. So much of what has been going on has not really been for the benefit of us, but it does seem to be for the benefit of a small section of society who seem to have become more powerful than they ought to and continue to do so. But I'd be interested in your thoughts about all of this in the comments below. So do let me know and make your voices heard. We do need to tell the government exactly what we think. As I mentioned in a video not so long ago, the people put the government into place in the very first place. Above us is God, the universe, the source, whatever you want to call, then man. Below man is an administration to help man organise itself and do things for our greater good. They are our servants, not our masters. We tell them through our representatives what they should do, and they should get on and do it. If they don't do it, then we kick them out and we get those that will. Somehow or other, this has turned 180 degrees, and for some reason, and I'm not quite sure quite how this has happened, this has turned round that they think they can tell us what to do. As I said before in another video, that's got to stop. And Mr. Sunak and his government and all these parties have got to start listening to the sovereign people of this land.